there is no excuse for what Vince did. Nothing. He is just a damn manipulating. Got all the money in the world. He thinks nobody can touch him. But I think he may have a rude awakening.
What is going on, guys? Welcome in to the Sportskeeda Wrestling Facebook page and the WrestleBinge by Sportskeeda YouTube channel for a special Monday edition of Smack Talk. Usually myself, Dutch Mantell, SP3, we are here on a Friday night recapping Friday Night SmackDown. But since it was Royal Rumble week, we are now here to recap the big weekend in professional wrestling. And I would love to be sitting here right now talking about, right off the bat, Cody Rhodes going back-to-back, only the fourth man ever to do it, joining Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, putting to bed all the rumors of Rock and Reigns. It's done. It's over. No more debate. Cody Rhodes is going back to WrestleMania. Bayley punches her ticket as well. Huge moment for her. I'd love to be sitting here talking about that first off here, gentlemen. I would love to. But unfortunately, the entire Royal Rumble week, as was talked about in the press conference, albeit briefly, a bit of a dark cloud, I guess, is the term that we're going to be using here, cast over WWE and Vince McMahon in particular, with this bombshell of a lawsuit that was dropped by a former WWE employee. Just the most vile, heinous, disgusting accusations that you can hurl towards somebody. Inhumane is another word that I would choose to describe this 67-page, just, I don't even know what, the diatribe of what Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and several other executives, and a former talent who was, or current talent, I guess still, who was not named by name, but pretty damn obvious, former WWE and former UFC heavyweight champion, as he's labeled in the lawsuit. Yeah, I don't even know where to start with this one, guys. It was a difficult read for anybody who has not read it so far. If you have a weak stomach, I don't suggest that you do read it, but just know, as bad as you think it could possibly be, it's worse. It's worse.
I've never used the word horrific much, but I read this suit. Now, I didn't read 67 pages of it, but I read a recap, and that was enough, because it is, like you said, I'm not going to disagree with you. It was vile. It was horrific. It's hard to even read. And I'm reading this and I says, what makes me believe this more is because of the horrific stuff in it. If this was a made up suit, I don't think that woman or even an attorney could come up with some of that stuff. And it's very hard to read. And like you said, if you have a weak stomach, don't read it. Do not read it. So I think, knowing Vince, I've been around him, well, not as long as a lot of other people, but I was around him for about 5 years. And I said this on my other podcast, even when you're talking to Vince about wrestling, there's still a vibe about him that made me uncomfortable for some reason. Not that he ran the company or he was the boss or he was that. It was something else that I couldn't identify. But I felt better when I got away from him. Even when he was joking about something, you'd look at him and, I just had this feeling come over me that something is off about this man. That's why I couldn't imagine working in Titan Towers around him all day long. I'd have to go to the doctor. I would have I don't know, you call it a psychological session or what, but I don't know to me, now he may not affect other people that way, but with me, there was something about him that I just couldn't pin down. So I'm imagining and reading this suit, some of the things he did, some of the things he said, and he even said this in text messages, some of it. And they can pull that up. This is not they said, or he said, or she said. You can read it in a text. They can pull this up. And
they had screen grabs in the lawsuit.
Well, anyway, I'm one of the things I read is, you know what the Mann Act is? The Mann Act is a federal law that if you take anybody across state lines for like anything, prostitution or anything like that, you know, it's a violation of a federal law. And I think Vince is hung 7 ways from Sunday in this one. You think, and you know, it's a civil trial. It's not a criminal trial.
Yeah.
It's a civil trial, but don't civil trials have juries too?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking. I'm not a lawyer, but I tell you, if a jury heard this, they wouldn't debate 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They said, well, hell, he's hung. He did this stuff. I don't care what he says. The only big question that I would have if I was a juror, because I'm not a juror, of course, but why didn't the girl just leave? Why didn't she just walk out? And is that that would be a logical question why she put up with it. She put up with it for what, 2 years? Is that it?
Yeah.
I mean,
from what was said in the lawsuit, it was forms of manipulation, and intimidation at play, and the fact that I believe also in the lawsuit it discusses that they met each other because they lived in the same apartment complex. So that's like it's a very weird situation. So I don't even like to broach the question that you asked, because all the details kind of already answer that to me of why she stayed. Is that he is an intimidating figure, both physically and in the world of business and everything else. So I can understand why she felt like she had to stay in the situation. And at the same time, he's giving her gifts. At the same time, he's trying to make it feel in a certain way, playing with her mind in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's a deep rabbit hole to even answer that question.
I mean, at the top of the lawsuit, it states that she was in, and I'm paraphrasing here, but financial dire straits when she was introduced to Vince through a mutual friend, and he basically said to her, again, allegedly, yeah, hey, you know, we'll find a position here for you at WWE. We'll take care of you, your family here. I mean, this is described in the lawsuit. This is textbook, you know,
grooming,
sexual predator grooming is what it is. You find somebody who's down on their luck, you promise them the world, and then slowly but surely you take advantage of them and you put them in a situation to where they feel as they have no out. They are in too deep. You are a prominent figure in the world. You are a billionaire. If I leave, and again, I don't even want to like dive down the rabbit hole, but it's not that far-fetched of a concept for me to imagine this woman believing that if she left, Vince McMahon had the resources to just destroy her financially in whatever way that he could.
And the fact that the lawsuit came out is because he didn't give her reputation protection. It was reputational protection he put in the NDA, and he didn't provide that. He didn't make the payment. So yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, I agree with what Rick said. He's an intimidating figure, and she was already in a financial situation. So if he's threatening your finance, I don't know what else he's threatening from the messages that were sent. So yeah.
Wow. It also says that anybody that knew about this, anybody, I bet Titan Towers today, they're running around like ants around an anthole. Now, what's going to happen, I think, is when they start pulling people out of Titan Towers and start asking them questions, I think that's when the panic's going to set in with the group. Because how many people, okay, just off the top of your head, guys, how many people work at Titan Towers?
Oh, that's a question.
300,
Like,
400?
About like 250 to 350.
And, you know, if say I'm at Titan Towers and they pull me out for questioning, I'm going to be nervous as hell if I knew about it. And and I don't know, that's an intimidation factor. I don't think they could really charge anybody with just knowing about it. What can they do about it?
But I mean, there's complicity charges that you could come up with. But again, this is a civil suit, right? It's not, there's no criminal charges that have been filed. So again, I'm not a legal expert in that situation, but I would think that my job is on the line, bare minimum. And I think for me, guys, that's part of the most disconcerting part of this is there had to have been a lot of people who knew what was going on and did nothing. Like some of these things happened at the WWE headquarters during business hours.
Yep. And it's also the fact of the matter is this is not the first time of the Wall Street Journal exposing the whole lawsuit. They did a whole investigation and never called this woman. They did a whole investigation. So they knew I'm sorry. I failed to think that they did not know. And they chose, and they did, and they just, we just forgot to call her. We didn't just check in with her. They must have knew and did not call her. And then this is what happened in the long run a year later. So, I mean, it's a whole lawsuit not only against Vince McMahon, it's a whole lawsuit against the WWE. So
absolutely.
if anybody's asking, why is people like Triple H and the other McMahons being brought into this? This is about Vince. No, it's about the whole of WWE because negligence was at play on several occasions.
When did Stephanie step down the first time? 2022,
right before the Wall Street Journal report came out, the first one in 2022. May It was, I believe it was May 18th, 2022.
So this had to have something to do with that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then Shane, when did he go?
Well, Shane was kind of in and out. The last time he was here, he was in the company was WrestleMania. That's when Vince had already came back into the company. There was other kind of like reports or rumors that a lot of people believe Shane left the company in the first place because he knew about what Vince was doing, but that's merely rumors. It's not like reports or anything like that.
Yeah, and then Stephanie left the second time, by the way, when Vince forced him back onto the board. She left again.
So and all this, what's this woman's name? Janet what? What is her last name?
Janelle Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that had to play into that because remember, I was stunned when Stephanie left. I went, what is going on now? It's all laying down. Okay, let me ask you guys something because I don't understand it. He agreed to pay her $3 million. So an attorney had to be involved then, right?
I would have to. I would have to assume so, yes.
And he made $1 million payment to her. And he was supposed to make increments of $500,000 every 6 months or something. Is that the way it worked? And he just, after the first $1 million, he just stopped paying her, correct? But that's when all this other stuff broke. And all this other stuff, he said, hell, I'm not, after he's already paid out $19 million. That's almost an incriminating figure right there. Why did you pay these women if you didn't do nothing?
And that's the other thing about that. This is one woman. Like, you can't tell me that this wasn't happening to others. And there's been accusations and evidence and all sorts of things that this has been happening.
Oh, yeah.
This is someone separate from all the NDAs that they discovered in the $19 million that he had paid out in NDAs in the original investigation. This is separate from all of that. So you know there's more.
Well, there's no, hey, I'm a guy, we're all guys, but there is no excuse for what Vince did. Nothing. He is just a damn manipulating, got all the money in the world. He thinks nobody can touch him. But I think he may have a rude awakening. Let me ask you, could he get jail time out of this? Only in a criminal suit, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It can be upgraded from a civil suit to a criminal suit if they find enough evidence of such.
Yeah.
Wow.
But right now,
it's just a civil suit.
Yeah, the more you read it, it gets worse. Like you said, Rick, it gets worse and worse. And when he got to the point to where he was slapping her and beating her up, I don't have any respect for any man who would do that to a woman.
And not only that, but just like offering her up as a contract bonus.
Yep.
That is the wildest thing that I heard in that whole suit. And just the I won't say the terms of what, I don't know, bodily fluids. A lot of bodily fluids involved in the suit as well. It's just one of the most disgusting and repulsive things were done on numerous occasions and done on work hours with people on the other end of the door. And that's why I'm going to keep emphasizing the fact that you're not as bad as the people that are doing the acts. But if you are by the door and you know what's going on behind the door and you keep on walking and you don't say anything, you're almost as bad.
Yes,
if you know what's going on, you are a part of all of this. You are complicit in all of this.
Now, I know a lot of wrestlers, but none of them would be capable of doing what Vince did. Say, I mean, just of course they don't have the money that Vince has, of course, but I mean that it's just foul. And when you said bodily fluids, if you read it, I had to stop reading.
Yeah.
I said, no, I don't. I stopped and thought about it and went back. And of course, I would go back to it. Hard to imagine. And then you said other names being brought into it. John Laurinaitis, he was in on it. He had to be there watching it. There were several more that weren't named.
Yeah.
They
were 4 or 5.
WWE corporate officer number 1, corporate officer number 2. Yeah, there was descriptives of
Here's a question. Would you think Kevin Dunn would be in any of this?
I'm not going to speculate. I'm just not. I can't. I know Vince has the guys who are close to him, but with me being such an outsider and not knowing the corporate structure of who goes into Titan Towers in and out every week, I just don't know. I don't know. And there was also part of this where he's showing explicit photos to people of the tech staff. So it's it's hard to really gauge how far this goes and who's involved.
It's hard to imagine somebody like Vince. I mean, it's hard to imagine any wrestler that I know doing anything like this. I've heard some weird stuff, but this is the weirdest, craziest, sickest stuff I've ever read. I mean, when I read it, I said, nah, he didn't do that, but he did do that. And he sent her a text one time, and it's in the suit that he says, I'm going to drive you so low that you're going to think about killing yourself, or maybe somebody will buy you. Isn't it something? Did you read that?
Yeah.
I mean, who writes that stuff?
Somebody who doesn't.
Who's sick?
Somebody who doesn't view the person that they are conversing with as a human being is what
yeah.
No wonder Linda's not with him anymore.
Oh shit.
I mean, my God. But like I said, I used to get strange, weird vibes from the guy just being close to him. I mean, sometimes when I would go up around gorilla position waiting to go on, he'd be 15 feet from me, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. I couldn't wait to go down that ramp, do the deal. I mean, when I went down the ramp, I was free right then. I was away from him. Then you had to come back and go right by him. I couldn't wait to get out of there. I just felt constricted and held back. There's no way to explain it. But this may have at least answered part of it, because he's just a weird guy. So what else struck you about the lawsuit, Rick?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered the suit itself. I am curious to get your guys' opinions on how WWE handled the events from Wednesday on this week. Obviously, Slim Jim played a major role in Vince having to step down from the board, because once sponsor money, the largest sponsorship agreement that the company has ever struck, once they come out and say, hey, we're out. It's very easy to go, hey, Vince, sign these freaking forms right now. Your ass is gone because we need this money. And then less than 18 hours later, they're back on, and they got Slim Jim as part of LA Knight's entrance and this, that, and the other thing. And it was all systems go from that point on. But everything that handled up to what was honestly the most highly anticipated part of the entire weekend was going to be Triple H's presser. And we get to that point. And
you were there.
I was there. I was in the room. I did not get a chance to ask Triple H a question. I did get to ask Bailey a question. But other than that, no, I did not get to ask any questions about. How
many questions did he get asked about Vince or about the incident?
3.
3 times?
3. And the one I was going to ask was asked by Cameron Hawkins of The Ringer. That was my exact question: is how the hell do you make sure that anything like this doesn't happen again in the future? But man, I'll say this much. I think Triple H handled it the wrong way, the absolute worst way possible. It's hard for me to sit here and imagine the intent behind his answers. I feel like he was just going for a no comment. I think it would have been better for him to just say no comment. Because SP3 sitting there saying, hey, I'm just here to focus on the positives, came off very, very dismissive. Like, this is not the biggest thing that happened this weekend for me, when it absolutely was.
He was trying to downplay the whole situation, right? No comment. I'll agree. That would probably been better. No comment. And just say, go to the next guy.
Even just give SP3, just give us the legalese of, hey, it's early on. We just read this. Like, there's not a whole lot that I can say about it right now. Like, we were looking forward to finding more information, and hopefully we can provide more details down the line. Say that. That's bullshit, but say it. You had the cop out right there. Don't go, I just want to focus on the positives. This has been a great week for WWE. It has not been a fantastic week for WWE. I'm sorry, SP3. I'm sorry.
I'm shocked, because I don't expect this. like when this stuff happens, and when you have the AEW World's End thing with Tony Khan, and he's wearing sunglasses and a hat, and it's just like, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. But I expect more from WWE. I expect them to handle these type of situations when there was 2 choices for WWE with this press conference. One, you have your legal team or your media team go to every single person in that media room and let them know, we understand that Vince McMahon and the lawsuit is a major topic, but it is very early on, so we are not going to be answering any questions when it pertains to the lawsuit and Vince McMahon. So then when any of the media members ask a question, Triple H can simply say, no comment. Or you just Triple H simply says, no comment to everything. I was baffled by how he handled every single question. And my hat's off to John Alba, Cam Hawkins, and Brandon Thurston. One, I will say, WWE's legal team or media team that decided to put those three men who have so much integrity and they know the style of questions that they were going to ask, they set Triple H up to fail, first of all. And then second of all, Triple H handled that poorly. Yes, it may have been a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Yes, it may be a lose-lose situation, but there is a lose-lose situation, and then is a you lost. You lost. That was Triple H losing. He chose the wrong wording. He came off very dismissive. He said, let's focus on the positives. And then the number one thing, when he got asked by Brandon Thurston, did you read the lawsuit? No comment. No comment. That was the answer. And not, I did not. Whoa, what?
There are certain circumstances where honesty isn't always the best policy.
Yo, I was like, I had to pause my TV. I was like, whoa, wait, what? He just said that? He just admitted that? Like, even if it's true, if you're lying, why lie? If it's true, why say it? Like, it's just baffling.
Well, welcome, Endeavor, to the world of wrestling. This is their first week, right? It's their first pay-per-view, I know. But didn't Endeavor say anybody that had knowledge of this is gone?
I mean, that's been the reporting. Like there's many within WWE who feel like those who are closest to Vince or may have been complicit in any way, shape, or form are going to be cleansed.
What about Bruce Pritchard? Do you think he's going to go?
Yeah, I got a question about Bruce Pritchard here, Dutch Mantell, because Ronda Rousey sure had an interesting tweet this weekend that she sent out saying that as long as Bruce Pritchard is still in WWE, and I'm paraphrasing here, Vince McMahon is still in WWE, basically calling him a surrogate and a puppet for Vince, and said basically Bruce Pritchard was just doing Vince's bidding while he was gone the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You find a lot of validity. I believe that. You find validity in that statement.
I do. So I think Endeavor, they're going to, because this is too deep just to say, well, we'll just patch it up and we'll just go on. No, Endeavor's not going to do that. Their attorneys are working today in Titan Towers, and they're probably interviewing people, talking to people. My other question was, how much notice did Vince McMahon and his attorney have before this went public?
Hard to say.
And why didn't they fix it?
They must
give her the money.
They must have some crossover or turnover because Jerry McDevitt, didn't he retire?
I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, I think he just recently retired, Jerry McDevitt. Like, if Jerry McDevitt was around,
hell, I would retire too if Vince was my client. Hell, I just can't. I couldn't handle the.
I was gonna say you probably would have made several $100 million off of Vince alone by this point. So
he'd already give her $1 million, and he just cut off all communication. No more money. No this. No that. And when she finally went to get a lawyer and told him the story, I don't think he believed it. The story is so, if you read it, you think, this didn't happen. But now when you start reading those text messages and this and that, and you say, damn, this guy's, he's f***ed up big time, messed up.
I'm honestly,
I think he should have went ahead and paid what he promised her, and he could have dodged all this. But Vince, I think in Vince's head, he thinks he's an emperor. He thinks he can't be touched. He can't be bothered. Well, what's $2 million to him? He's a billionaire.
Here's the thing. It would not strike me if Vince did not see the error in what he did. It would not strike me if he did not see what he did as a problem, as something that is wrong. It would not strike me as that way. It's like, what's the big deal? Like, seriously, it would not surprise me if it's like, this is not that big of a deal. But he's going to go out there and he's going to deny that he did any wrongdoing, because I guarantee you in his mind, he doesn't think that he did anything wrong.
That's how he handled the first situation. And that's what his comment came off as when he said that it was full of lies and he would defend his name.
Replete. He said replete.
Yes, replete.
Replete. What's that mean? Full? Replete? Full of lies? Yes, but I don't know. It's if you read this thing, and so they didn't name him, but it's generally assumed that the talent they're talking about is Mr. Lesnar. Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty plain as day. I mean, when you say former WWE and UFC heavyweight champion, that really kind of narrows the
scope of it down.
The scope of people involved, especially when you're talking about contract.
Who could that be?
Yeah, especially when you can narrow it down by the date as well, and they're talking about re-signing a contract. Yeah, it's plain as day that it was Brock Lesnar. And here's one thing that WWE got right, if the reports are true. Brock Lesnar was supposed to be in the Royal Rumble this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
He was not in the Royal Rumble this weekend. He was pulled, and according to PWI, he was replaced by Braun Breaker. Great. That's the one thing y'all got right this weekend. That's it. That you nailed that part, because there is no way, shape, or form. I don't care if he was supposed to go face-to-face with Gunther and set up this big intercontinental title match at WrestleMania, which I assume would have been what they were going to do, because if Breaker was just taking Brock's place with the stare downs and the eliminations and everything, because everything had already been set up at that point, great. You insert Braun Breaker in there. It's a perfect surrogate to step in and do all the Brock spots, because he can do all the Brock spots. I don't think Brock was going to get eliminated by Dominic Mysterio, so maybe some things were changed there a little bit.
Well, apparently he was supposed to verse Dominic Mysterio at Elimination Chamber.
Really?
That's what Wrestling Observer Radio reported.
Wow.
Wow. Let's talk about Laurinaitis a second.
Do we have to?
How would you like to have been in his household this weekend?
No. I don't want to be anywhere near Funk Man. All right. I don't want to be anywhere near.
That's another I didn't like.
I didn't like him. I could feel some uneasiness about him through my TV screen, Dutch.
That's what I'm saying. So imagine been standing there with him. These guys are out there, man. Really. I mean, I could stand next to you guys and it'd be okay. And, but standing, get Vince and John Laurinaitis in the same room. And I've been there too. And I was about to jump through my skin, but didn't know why. I thought, what are you, such a wussy? You can't even talk to him. That's what I was thinking. No, because I was getting all this weird vibes coming off of them from both sides. I just can't explain that. How would you like to be in Brock Lesnar's household this weekend? Ooh. So anyway, no wonder Linda hit the bricks. I don't blame her.